Hello comic book fans! In previous videos I've talked about the storyline A Death in the Family, which happens to be the death of Jason Todd, who was the second Robin to Batman. I also did another video on the storyline A Lonely Place of Dying, which happens to be the introduction of Tim Drake to the DC Universe. And following up on that, let's talk about Robin, a Hero Reborn. This is a trade paperback collecting Batman's number 455 to 457 and collecting the first 5 issues of Robin's solo series, which happens to be the first time that Robin ever got his own solo series. Before I say anything, this trade paperback has been re-released several different times with several different covers, and the original price for this was $4.95. That's like unheard of. That's 8 issues that are compact all together in a trade paperback. Usually something like that goes for at least 20 bucks or more now. This trade paperback consists of 2 different storylines. The first storyline does lead into the second storyline, however. The first storyline has to do with Batman taking on the Scarecrow. This storyline also has to do with Tim Drake dealing with his own insecurities and his own fears. His father was just put into a coma and his mother was murdered by another character, which I'll talk about that in another video. The writer for this storyline is Alan Grant. He's showing that Tim Drake is not quite ready to take up the mantle of being Robin. Bruce Wayne is the one that's mainly keeping him from putting on the suit. He feels as though he still needs a bit more experience before he's ready for that. Certain circumstances take place and Batman is captured by the Scarecrow. Tim Drake goes to rescue him. However, unlike the cover of number 457, he doesn't put on the Robin costume to save him. He just puts on a mask to cover up his face. Which is great. He's coming to Batman's rescue, so he's showing that he is very heroic, but he doesn't feel as though he's worthy enough to put on the Robin costume, so he's humble enough to know maybe he's not ready to be an actual superhero, but he can't sit on the sidelines and do nothing. But this issue is very historic because at the very end, Bruce Wayne does acknowledge the fact that he is Robin and gives him his own unique version of the Robin costume. It's very updated and much more practical. The previous Robin costume, other than a couple different changes here and there in some alternate universes and alternate timelines in the future, the costume has pretty much remained the same, so seeing it updated like this had to be such an incredible feel for anyone out there that were reading comic books back then. Immediately following this issue is when his solo series started up. Enter Chuck Dixon, who is the writer for this. This is where Tim Drake's real training starts up. He's sent to Paris where he's trying to learn an ancient Tibetan form of martial arts. It also involves a lot of meditation and healing arts. However, this is all completely interrupted because he gets involved into a gang fight. He saves an undercover agent, which leads him to be involved in a bigger scheme that he had no idea was taking place. There's a deadly plague that's about to be released by a guy called King Snake. Another character to show up is Lady Shiva, who doesn't really care about the plague in any way. She actually wanted to take on the guy that King Snake just previously beat the crap out of, and she wanted to challenge him because that's just what she is. She's one of these really badass fighters who likes to challenge other people to try to see how great they really are. Little side note, during the Death in the Family storyline, Jason Todd thought that she could possibly be his mother. Turns out that wasn't the case. But she also gets involved and then starts to train Tim Drake in how to fight. She has her own motivation for that doesn't come out to fruition, but still, she does train him. The humility that Tim gets in this comic book, you don't really see too often. There's a point where Lady Shiva wakes him up in the middle of the night where Tim thinks she's waking him up to have sex. Turns out she just wants to train him. He doesn't realize that at first, and it's hilarious seeing that. But it's also one of those moments where you're feeling the embarrassment for the character. I don't know if anyone else empathizes that way, but I'll read certain things here and there, and I feel like the characters are real, and then I'm like thinking in my head, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. What a bad thing to do. The storyline plays itself out, and Tim Drake proves himself to be Robin. He proves himself to be worthy of holding the mantle. It's not a huge cataclysmic event that takes place at the end where there's this huge epic fight, but he does win. Robin does get his butt kicked a lot in this, but he does learn from all of it, and he's also able to find ways to counteract the guys that are beating him up. The storyline proves without a doubt that he's not physically the strongest out of all the Robins, but he makes up for that with his brains. He's able to outsmart his adversaries, and he's able to think ahead like Batman does. The entire story was incredible. I've read it like 50 times at least. In fact, in future storylines, which I won't go into too much right now, he's even able to take down Lady Shiva. This also sets up Tim Drake for his future miniseries to come out and his ongoing solo series. His popularity really started to soar after this because because he still showed up in the Batman and Detective Comics series as well, but when he started to get his own miniseries, it just seems as though it propelled him even further. Tim Drake will always be my boy, and this comic series is what really got me into him more than anything else. It shows that he's very humble, but he's also very smart. Physically, he's not the toughest, but he's still very strong, and he's able to overcome all of his adversaries. On the very last page of this trade paperback, there's a blueprint of what Tim Drake's costume is, and all the functions of all the different gadgets that he has. It's pretty cool to look at. I'll just leave it at that. Like I said, this trade paperback has been re-released a dozen different times, so you can pretty much find it anywhere. Amazon has it for like $5, so it's not too expensive to get. Or you can spend a few extra dollars and get the individual issues as well. That's what some hardcore fans really like to do. So that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching me in this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, check out my Patreon site when you get a chance, and I'll join you guys in another video very soon. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Tim's first trainer in this series is Shin-Chi, who is a very stereotypical jerk that's really full of himself, and of course he beats Tim up because Tim doesn't really know what he's doing. Luckily though, later on in Tim's own solo series, his ongoing series, he meets up with him again. He totally wipes the floor with Shin-Chi, and I love seeing that.